Hello and welcome to Art with Mr P. This week we're drawing again. So it's our second week of drawing. But I'd like you to start off by searching online and having a look at a painting by Gustav Klimt called The Portrait of Adele Bloch-Bauer. I think it's his second portrait. Now, why should we look at famous artwork? Well, I can think of three reasons straight away. First of all, like reading any story, it makes us feel better. In this case, we're reading the lines and the shapes and the colours rather than the letters and the words. But it's still a story. Look into the story, try and look behind the story. Have a little look at the background. Look at other pictures by Gustav Klimt. It makes us feel good, but it also, the more we do it, the more it improves our visual literacy. It helps us to read things that are visual better. So where there aren't letters and words, there may be symbols or pictures, and we can understand and interpret their messages better the more we do it. And thirdly, of course, looking at famous pieces of artwork is just fun. If you go into a gallery and look at famous pictures, go in with a positive approach, get out of it what you can. Sometimes they're too hard to read, yeah? Sometimes we don't know the language. But you can nearly always get something out of it. It can nearly always be fun. Anyway, it's about time we had some fun. Let's get creative. Let's do this. Right, so Gustav Klimt, Adele Bloch-Bauer here. Very interesting in that the face, although not totally realistic, is clearly the face of a human being. There's quite a lot of detail in there. You can see she's got a lipstick and she's shaped her eyebrows and she's had her hair done. But when you leave the person and you go on to her dress or the background, then the shapes and the colours and the lines and the textures stop being realistic and they become abstract. So they stop being a dress and they become shapes and lines and colours. So we've got a combination, in one picture here, we've got a combination of the figurative or realistic along with the abstract as well. And when you think that this was painted in 1907, this is really quite revolutionary. Now, what would I like you to do? Well, this Klimt's picture is our starting point. What I'd like you to do is to draw a head and shoulders of yourself or someone in your household. So I might draw this person. And then I'm going to draw her outfit. So we get an idea from the overall shape that it's probably what this person's wearing. And we'll start it off so it's quite probable. But then we're going to go abstract. In actual fact, what happens then is that the shapes do not any longer suggest what's underneath, yeah. So looking at the Klimt, actually, we've got all sorts of interesting things going on there. Very fashionable at this point was ancient Egypt art, and you can see lots of this symbol, the all-seeing eye. Yeah, very, very Egyptian. So I think I'll put this on this person's, because I'm being inspired by Klimt. Yeah, I'm going to put lots of eyes on here. Then there are other shapes. There is, of course, this shape, which is also a symbol. Symbol is a picture of something that means something else. Yeah. So spiral is sometimes a symbol of life. Yeah. It's a bit like life is a maze. Yeah. And we have to make decisions about which way we turn and which path we follow. And sometimes we have to follow paths that don't necessarily just make us happy at that moment. Yeah. Okay, and then of course, what makes the picture slightly confusing is that Klimt's actually put patterns in the background as well, so the dress kind of joins up with the background. Now you keep going, get this thing filled up. Now you can fill this in however you want. Yeah? Klimt was very good with colour actually, and although we've got a good range of colours, there's blues and reds, this picture is actually predominantly golden. Yeah, if you've got gold paint or gold pencils, use those. Yeah? Quite often in Klimt's work we see flower shapes. So these were interesting patterns that you can see in nature here. So remember, the original painting by Klimt is just a starting point, and what we're doing is retelling the story in our own lines and shapes and colours. Yeah. Right, so start to fill these in. You can use any colour materials you want. You can use paint. Like I say, if you have metallic colours, that would be even more Klimt-like, as Klimt used a lot of gold paint, making his paintings very, very expensive. But he was a clever man, and he had lots of people, rich people, who wanted to buy his pictures. And you keep going, keep going, keep going, colour it in, and this will be your version of a portrait of someone, maybe yourself or someone you live with, in the style of Gustav Klimt, inspired by the Portrait of Adele Bloch-Bauer, which was originally painted in 1907. Well done. So we've looked at the Portrait of Adele Bloch-Bauer, number 2, which I think Klimt painted in 1907. We've looked at the lines and the shapes and the colours and the other visual elements that Klimt used. And we've taken that painting as a starting point for our own journey, as a starting point for our own story. We've retold this story in our own visual elements, using our own lines, shapes and colours. Next week, we're moving on to painting again. So we'll be focusing in on colour probably. And I'll see you then.